Hey there. So this video is going to be about maintenance and first aid to your Tarsacci MDT 8000. We're going to show you how to maintain the O-rings and also what to do if you do get water in your Tarsacci. Stay tuned. All right, so someone that I was talking to, one of the water hunters down in Florida recently, had told me that there was someone, a fellow Tarsacci hunter, that wasn't even aware of how the red O-ring on the bottom of the battery compartment, the threaded area right here, wasn't even aware of how the O-ring was supposed to be properly seated. So first of all, I just wanted to go over, there are two O-rings, okay? And some of you may not be aware of it, but there's actually another O-ring in the cap, okay? It's black, it's right here. Let me get out in the sun here. As you can see, the reason it looks wet is because I have a coat of silicone grease on it, as per Dimitar's advice, okay? Now, as you can see, there is, I'll take it out. Okay, so here's the black O-ring that goes in the cap. And if you notice, there's a groove that it fits in. All right, now, like I said, I've already put some silicone grease on it. And what I recommend, it's not rocket science. You don't have to get the most expensive stuff, but this stuff I got on Amazon. It's called Danco silicone grease. So I think it's only like $3.95, okay? So you're just gonna put a little bit, a light coat on that O-ring. Don't take it and fill the groove in, okay, with silicone. You're gonna have problems if you do that, okay? But one of the really good things about using silicone grease is it will keep that O-ring in there, because sometimes, and there may be some of you out there, maybe even especially relic hunters, that don't really care about the unit being waterproof. You may have taken the cap on off and on a couple times to charge it, and that you may have lost that and not even realize it. So it might be a good idea to take that cap off and make sure you've got that O-ring, because if you ever do take it in the water, or if you decide to dunk it just to wash it, if it's real muddy after some nice day of farm field hunting, you might get water in it. Okay, and we're going to talk about what to do if you do get water in it in a minute. But just put light coat of silicone grease on that O-ring, and the same goes for the orange one, or rather the red one too. Okay, just a little bit, and also make sure that you don't get any in the threads. If you get it in the threads and you somehow get sand in there, you're going to get sand in the threads, and then you're going to have a hard time screwing the cap on, and you're going to have to clean it off. It'll be a little bit of a mess. All right, I always keep a few extra ones with me, especially when I'm going out lake hunting, and if I lose one, I have a backup. So you definitely do not want to go in the water missing either of those O-rings, okay? Now, let's say in the event that you do get water in your Tarsacci, there's a couple ways you can get water in them. One way is, as stated earlier, is if you're missing an O-ring, or even both of them for that matter. You're gonna get water in it, okay? Another way is if you don't tighten the cap enough. Don't reef down on it. You don't have to really till you practically strip it out, okay? But it's got to be snug. Also, another way is if you do not have the O-rings properly seated. All right. Now, the reason mine leaked was because I didn't have the cap tight enough. In fact, I really didn't have it tight at all. I completely forgot and I wasn't even using it. That's last summer when I was using the Equinox. I had got off a boat. Guy gave me a lift to an island, and I just dropped the Tarsacci in the water, and a little bit of water got in it. It was no big deal. Here's what you do. Now, I didn't notice this for a few days later. And what may happen is, if there's water that's been sitting in the battery compartment, you'll look at the battery may even have, because this is bare metal right here, bare steel, okay? And this will develop a kind of like a little goopy, like water, a rusty water type of goop, okay? It's not a big deal. Just take the battery out, clean it, and knock the moisture out of the contact on the positive contact end there, and then dry it with a hair dryer. As far as the battery compartment, what you do is take some alcohol, pour it in there, put the cap back on, and shake it up good, and then dump it out. Okay, that's going to help it. It's going to help clean it and dry it out faster. Take a hair dryer and don't stick the hair dryer right up to the battery compartment hole. Put it, a couple feet away, and just leave it on low for a couple minutes just to dry it out. Okay, let it sit like that for a day or so. Okay, now if it still doesn't start, here's what you can do. Okay, so let's say that you've done everything and the machine is still not starting. You've flushed it out with the alcohol. You've got all the excess liquid moisture out of there, and even dried it out and let it sit for a day. It's still not starting. All right, here's what else you can try. This is what worked for me. If you notice, you got your battery contact here at the top. You got if you've gotten water in the machine, that may have gotten a bit of corrosion on it, and that's all it takes is just a little bit. You might not even see it, and it will not fire up. Okay, so here's what you do: get yourself some 600 grit sandpaper, and all you do is you take a piece and just lightly polish up that contact. Okay, and then you can even put your stick your finger down there and shine it up a little bit. Okay, that's what worked for me. Fired right back up again, and if it ever does leak, you want to do that as part of your maintenance. Okay, and so just remember, before you take that Tarsacci into the water for the first time, make sure you've got both O-rings. You got the red O-ring down here at the bottom of the threads. It's properly seated. And you've got the O-ring in the cap, and that's also properly seated. And you've got them both a light coat of silicone grease on them. Replacing these O-rings, or if you simply want extra ones, these are both available at McMaster Car. As far as the part number, I can't say. I know Dimitar knows, and if I find out from him, I'll post it on my website on Tarsacci forums, or you can call Dimitar direct and ask him. Now, a couple things here as far as the seating of the O-ring. You want to make sure that that black O-ring is properly seated in that cap, in that groove, and you don't want to crimp it or anything, otherwise you're going to have a leak. Okay, it has to be properly seated, and it has to be properly seated against that red one too when it's tightened down. And as far as the red O-ring, you want to make sure that it is all the way at the bottom. All right, see how I got that flush against the very bottom of the battery compartment? All right, make sure that you have that properly seated. All right, watching the video, and I hope you take the time to look over the O-rings on your Tarsacci. Make sure everything's in tip-top order. An ounce of prevention goes a long way. If you like the video, please like it, and also please subscribe. I really appreciate it. And take a look at our forum at Tarsacci Sales. Click on community to visit Tarsacci forums. Thanks a lot. Have a good one. This is Aaron, out.